if we're going to go into the business of removing despots, then we sure as heck are being awfully selective in terms of who we are designating as being needed, in terms of, deciding who needs to be removed. I mean, we have in Saudi Arabia, we have leaders who we know were involved in or who sanctioned or who actually maybe even initiated the murder of a journalist who worked for an American newspaper.
Yep. Alrighty, welcome in. That's right, we're back. We took a little Christmas vacation, and now here we are. Josh Moon and
David Persson.
How are you, David?
I'm good, man. It was a good 2-week break, and glad to be back in front of this microphone talking to you and getting into Alabama politics, man. It's great.
Nice. It is, because you know what? I don't know if I said the name. It's Alabama Politics This Week. And it's Alabama Politics This Week, still brought to you by our good friends over at Wind Creek Entertainment. Tell you about them real quick. They operate 3 fantastic locations in the state of Alabama. That's in Atmore, Montgomery, and Wetumpka. Wetumpka and Atmore, obviously the 2 crown jewels that they have of those 3 places, and you should go check them out. They're great. They would still make for a great post-Christmas trip. Everybody's all sad because the holidays are over. It's cold outside, and you don't want to go out in that because you might die, from it. And and also one of the greatest ventilation systems that you'll find in any indoor enclosed facility in the state of Alabama at all 3 of those locations that they have. So you're less likely to catch the flu at one of those places, which is always a nice welcomed addition to any indoor event that you're having to go to, is if they've got nice ventilation to keep that air moving and get it the hell away from you. So go check them out. You will not regret it. It's a great time. Go to the spa, go play the games, go to the fine restaurants, go down, take the kids down there. They've got places for the kids to go and play and hang out. They've got the movie theater, the bowling alley, the arcades. They're fantastic locations for everybody. Just go and play. Go and have a good time. Mention that we sent you. We don't get anything from that, but it would be nice. It would be nice. So, you look them up online. Wind Creek Entertainment. Book a stay. Book a spa trip. Have yourself a fine time. All right. Hey, listen. Valentine's Day is coming up. I know we just got finished with the holidays, but you got about a month. All right. You got about a month here to get your shit together. Okay. You got about a month to get your shit together. All right. Otherwise, there's going to be no March Madness for you. Okay, you don't screw this up.
Oh, I think that's the least. I think that'll be the least of their problems if they don't get Valentine's.
There'll also be no February Madness for you. Okay, all right. There'll be no kind of madness for you. They'll just be mad. All right, you're just going to get madness. You just get mad. All right. So don't book the stay. Book the spa trip. Get the massage. Get everything worked out. You're not going to regret it. I'm telling you, you're not going to regret it. Look them up online, Wind Creek Entertainment. Book it up for yourself. All righty. I have not checked today. Have we kidnapped any other world leaders?
Well, we should definitely make sure that the leaders of Mexico, Cuba, Greenland, and Colombia are okay, right? And last I heard, they're all right for now. So I guess we're okay for now.
I don't know that there's a better explanation for this, or a better insight for it, or a better comparison for what's going on with Trump and Venezuela, as the Daily Show did the other night when they compared statements made by the Trump administration and their lackeys about what was taking place in Venezuela versus what took place in Iraq. and what we were doing in Iraq, and how we were going to build the country and leave it better than before, and how there was terrorism, and how we've got to do this, and how we've got to do that, and how it don't worry about it. We're going to be greeted as liberators, and the people are going to love us, and it's going to be a fantastic place. And it is the mess of all messes at this
Yep.
point
Yep.
in that region. And that's probably the same way we're going to leave Venezuela, because where you can't leave a country with those sorts of assets, the minerals and the oil, uh, that are wanted by so many people with that amount of money on the line. You can never leave, because people that you don't want to be in charge are going to be in charge. And
Yep.
it just uh, we know where it's going, and the ideas that I mean, it just, uh, what are we doing?
Well, I mean, you wrote about this, and I think, like many of us, this seems. Yeah, I think you've concluded that it seems to be on some level about the oil, uh, and and so I guess that's the pretense for this whole thing. But I will say it just seems like Trump has created a scenario where he's really now projecting a presidency that is really the antithesis of everything that he was supposed to be representing in terms of foreign policy. He was talking about how he was sick and tired of the wars, and Americans were sick and tired of the wars,
Mhm.
and how he didn't think America needed to be the police force of the world. And now, instead, what he's doing is he's trying to police at least this hemisphere anyway. And you got his one of his compadres, Stephen Miller, on, I think it was on CNN, talking about, yeah, we can we can take Greenland because we want to, and nobody can stop us. And that doesn't sound like the anti-war,
Yeah.
anti-imperialistic president.
Mhm.
And I'm throwing in imperialism because the whole implication, at least as I understood it, of what Trump was saying was, on some level he was saying that he didn't want to be the United States to be this this nation that's involved in these messy attempts to colonize other nations and other continents and other people. And yet that seems to be exactly what he's doing in this hemisphere.
Yeah. And I think honestly, I'll say I think it's just further evidence that Trump will just say anything, and no words that come out of his mouth have actual meaning. They don't mean anything at all to him or to any of the people around him. I mean, if you want to understand him, just look at the actions that he takes, and the actions that he takes are most often whatever serves him and those closest to him best. And it doesn't matter at all what he said in the past. It doesn't matter at all what he said. I mean, just not even like weeks in the past, minutes in the
Right.
past.
Right.
It doesn't matter. It does not matter to him. He feels no shame whatsoever. He'll just do whatever serves him best at that moment. That's the reason why the Epstein files have been such a problem for him, is because he said all these things about the Epstein files, about what they were going to do, and they made all these promises about releasing them in unredacted forms and completely, so you can see what I was going on. And then obviously when it became clear that he was all over the Epstein files, they pulled back on that, and they've tried to cover it ever since. And I do think that this Venezuelan thing is part of, and I think I called it the Oily Epstein, Operation Oily Epstein, in the thing that I wrote. And I mean, I think, because I do think that is a portion of this as well. I think the oil is a portion. I think the gold that they sit on is a portion of it. I think the Epstein files and that scandal is a portion of this as well, because it takes attention away from that for a little while. Rightfully so. We're putting young people, the sons and daughters, mostly of poor folks, in harm's way, to do something that is on its face. The explanation is completely and utterly ludicrous. I mean, it's just ludicrous. The drug issue. Shut up. I mean, number one, you cannot in any informed way track the drugs that are flowing out of Venezuela to the United States. I mean, there may be a little bit of cocaine that flows through Mexico and the cartels into the United States. There may be some of that, okay, but it's not enough that we should be certainly not fighting a war over it. And on top of that, as I pointed out in the column, you've got to you got to fly over like 5 other countries that are doing far more harm in terms of importing the drugs that are killing Americans, and actually creating the trafficking situation that leads to
Right.
whatever Venezuelan cocaine is making it here. The traffickers of that are the cartels in Mexico. That's where they're
Mhm.
coming from. So you're going to pass over the cartels in Mexico. You're going past Nicaragua. You're going past El Salvador. You're going past Guatemala. You're going past Honduras, whose president you just pardoned for being convicted in a court of law of supplying drugs and guns into this country. I mean,
And
come on,
and
man.
and in addition to all of that, which makes to me perfect sense, there's the feeling in my mind that this is such a half-baked solution, if you want to even call it that, or an approach to a solution. Because we know that, first of all, let's just face the reality. Drug trafficking, whoever's doing it, whoever's behind it, is making billions of dollars for the traffickers and all the other people in the pipeline because there's a demand for it.
Yeah.
So so you're skipping over the demand problem, which is a
Right.
serious issue.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
people that are getting addicted, people that are struggling. They have issues that precipitate or make them even more vulnerable to addiction. You're skipping over all of that. This is the wing of American politics that claims to be so big on personal responsibility. So what about personal responsibility when it comes to that? you
Hmm.
know what about and I'm not, and I understand some people are predisposed to addiction, so I'm not trying to suggest or diminish the reality of addiction,
Sure.
but I'm saying I'm not hearing anything about addressing addiction as a public health issue. I'm not hearing anything about addressing personal responsibility. I'm not hearing anything about the systems in the United States that facilitate drug trafficking, that make it possible, whether you're talking about business owners that are funding it or banks that are involved in the financial transactions. you know
Mm.
um
The CIA.
there's a lot that we're skipping over here, and we're going straight to, we're going to kidnap the president of a country so that we
It's
can
so
address
it's yeah,
drugs.
it's ludicrous. It's ludicrous. I mean, it's it's not to mention. I mean, there's a set of books out there by Don Winslow, and those the books are fictional tales. Okay, let me say this, but they are basically historical fiction. Okay, and they are essentially this trilogy of books follows along with the rise of the cartels in Mexico and where they spawn from, and specifically America's role in the creation of those, the backing of certain cartels, because they were more favorable to what we wanted to accomplish versus others. So the American government has had a long history of having its finger in the drug trade and drug trafficking, since out of the 70s, maybe even the 60s. And there's also the great TV show, Snowfall,
Yeah.
which also fictionalized, but it details the very real role the CIA and the American government played in the crack epidemic of the 80s that started out in Los Angeles, and um, you know these
Yeah.
things. you know, it's just that's what I'm saying though. I say all that to just say this is a ludicrous thing to say. That
Mhm.
this, I mean, and as someone else pointed out the other day, the idea that you would for a second believe that this administration, which and this Republican Party, which continues to offer nothing but thoughts and prayers every time kindergartners are shot to death in their
Exactly.
classroom, suddenly
Exactly.
now cares enough about the welfare of the average American that they're going to go and kidnap in the dead of night the president of another country just to keep us all safe and warm in our beds from, voluntarily ingesting their cocaine. I mean, come
Yeah.
on. You know what I mean? Come on, man.
And even the idea that the arrest of one person, or in this case, I guess a couple, husband and wife, as though that's going to miraculously solve the problem, you
I
know,
know.
it
Yeah.
takes it's a systemic issue,
Yes.
assuming, even if we could assume that everything that Maduro and his wife have been accused of, even if we can assume that it's all true, and that they are the head of the snake, if you will, even cutting that off, you still got the rest of the snake to deal with.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's that's not going to solve the problem,
No.
Not, and we didn't even get into the whole implications of, oh, so now we're just, unilaterally deciding that we can go into other countries and kidnap their presidents. I mean,
Yeah.
what kind of America is that? You know,
I just
Y-
that's and I think that's what. But I'll be honest with you. I don't care anything about Maduro. I think Maduro's a thug and a criminal, and I think
Mhm.
he absolutely deserves to be in prison. Just like the Honduran president deserved to be in prison. I think that they were corrupt people who did help facilitate and lead a drug smuggling operation that terrorized and brutalized the country and was responsible for tens of thousands of deaths, if not hundreds of thousands of deaths. I think that he absolutely did all that stuff, and he should be in prison. But you're right. And listen, I also don't have a problem with American Special Forces going in and taking that asshole. All right. But I do
Really?
have a
Hmm.
problem. I do have a problem with you not briefing at the very least, going through and receiving approval from the various committees that deal with armed services and other things in our government and in Congress. Those people should have had a say so in this. It could have been private. It could have been behind closed doors. Those representatives should have been involved. It was very clearly from Trump's public statements, just something that was discussed with the oil companies about what's going on here in Venezuela. So
Well,
the same
they
thing should have
deny that
happened.
though. They
Uh,
deny that.
yeah, yeah,
The
bullshit.
oil
I
companies
mean,
are saying that they weren't briefed before or after. So, I mean, and see, this is part of my problem. This is why I don't like the idea. Well, it's one of several reasons why I don't like the idea of the United States just going into another country and kidnapping a president and putting him on trial. Even though I understand, that he was convicted in a U.S. court of some things, and that's
but
fine. I'm
just
certainly
indicted. He
not.
wasn't convicted. He was just indicted.
Oh, I thought he was convicted, but okay,
No, he
so
was just
nonetheless,
indicted.
indicted.
Yeah.
Okay, indicted. Thanks for the correction. I am not suggesting that this guy is an angel by any stretch of the
Right.
imagination.
Right.
I'm not
Yeah.
trying to sanitize him in any way, shape, or form, but I'm saying I don't know that any of that justifies the United States going into, or into, whether it's through clandestine means or through open military means, going into another country, another sovereign nation, and saying, we're just gonna take you out of play, and we're gonna put somebody else in play that is preferable to us. I think
Yeah.
that's a major problem.
Oh, I think. Listen, all right. So I think overall, I understand what your problem is, and I sort of agree with you. But where I think I'm differing is I differ in the procedures that are followed. And if you, number one, take this to a court and a court issues this indictment based upon the evidence that you were presented against a president of a foreign country. Now, same thing happened with Hernandez in Honduras. Okay, the same exact thing happened there, and he was indicted as well. The difference was the Biden administration worked with authorities at every level, talked about a plan, developed a plan, then also worked with special forces in Honduras. And worked with that country's people to facilitate a raid that led to his capture and arrest. All right, and so I think that would have been a better approach. Now, listen, maybe Venezuela doesn't have the people who are willing to do that in that country. Maybe the law enforcement in that country was as corrupt as well, and so you don't have that avenue of approach. Okay, I'm even okay with going around them. All right, if you follow the protocols within this country and you inform the people in Congress, congressional approval is granted. Everybody who is briefed on this understands what's going on. There's a plan in place. We go in and execute that plan, and you remove this person who the United States has deemed to be a danger to its citizens and to have facilitated whatever that he's done. Okay, in that country.
Well,
Because let's move it away from just the drug thing. Let's say we've
mhm.
got a murderous dictator in a country that is slaughtering. The president of Mexico has ordered the slaughter of thousands of citizens. I think we got a duty. I think we have a
Well,
duty to talk about what we're going to do to remove that
well,
person and to do it.
yeah, well, and that's where I would say if we're going to do that, there needs to be a consensus built, and it doesn't just need to be an internal consensus. It needs to be an international consensus, and that's one thing I can say. Even though, Gulf War One, didn't approve of that, didn't feel like it should have happened, but I will say my recollection is, and I know I'm going back 20 some odd years or more,
Yeah.
but what I will say is that George H.W. Bush at least sought to build a consensus. And so it wasn't just the United States acting unilaterally, it was the United States and several of its allies. And so if somebody needs to be replaced because they are just hellishly despotic, okay, get as you're saying, get the internal consensus, with Congress and lay out a transparent case that the American people can support and understand, and
Mhm.
then and be accountable to us, because ultimately any fallout is going to come back on us, and then build an international consensus. And then if you can do all that and take somebody out, I can live with that. I'm not saying I'd necessarily agree, but I could
Yeah.
live with that because at least there'd be some transparency and integrity in the process. That's not
Yeah.
what we've seen here.
No, no, and hmm, I'll say I think that I would certainly not be opposed to doing that, to having the transparency and to having the briefings and to having it before the American people and engaging the response to it. That said, you know, rightly or wrongly, we elect the people to represent us to make these decisions, and if you are putting that in front of the people who we've elected to make those decisions for us, and they are approving it, and you need to go, and you don't need to lay it out in such a manner that it alerts the person who you're thinking of removing. And so because I think what you can do in that situation is you make it so public that it prepares that person for what might be coming, and at that point then it risks further American lives that you don't have to put in play there, because you're going to have to send folks in to do that. And I would prefer that we keep that as back channel as possible. And now, as far as alerting allies, I mean, I think that's a call that can be made on the way. Hey,
Yeah,
listen, listen, folks. I think that we're going to do this, and because listen, I do think there are situations, and there are situations all over the world like that. There are some people, there was another thing the Daily Show noted was Trump's relationship to a lot of people who were murderous dictators,
yep, yep, yep,
Kim Jong and
yep,
Vladimir, and
yep.
the dude in Saudi Arabia, and so many others, and that we're making some judgment calls here now that we don't really have the evidence to support one over the other if we're going to start doing this, and so they're all a little flimsy on these sorts of things. But I do think that there are some situations which call for action, and I don't think this one did. I don't think this one
No,
did
I
it,
was gonna
at
say this is
all.
not one of them. Yeah, this is not
No,
one of them.
but I'm not shedding any tears for Maduro the way he's treated those
Oh,
people in that
I
country.
I'm not shedding any tears for him either, but I'm just saying I'm shedding tears for us because
Yeah,
I think this has put us in a real precarious position constitutionally and in terms of geopolitics and how we are going to be received by other nations, including those that we call allies. I'm shedding tears for us, not for Maduro. And as you pointed out, if we're going to go into the business of removing despots, then we sure as heck are being awfully uh, selective in
yeah,
terms of who we are
right,
designating as
yeah,
being needed, in terms of deciding who needs to be removed. I mean, we have in Saudi Arabia, we have leaders who we know were involved in or who sanctioned or who actually maybe even initiated the murder of a journalist who worked for an American newspaper.
yep, yeah.
And
You know,
and Trump did nothing. Biden, I can't remember. I guess Biden really didn't do.
I didn't do anything either.
I mean, he didn't do anything either. I was trying to make sure that I hadn't forgotten some kind of effort or anything. These guys, they didn't do anything about this.
Well, I mean,
Nothing.
no one likes to talk about it, but I mean, the guy that's running Israel right now has also got an indictment out for his arrest,
Yeah,
for war
Netanyahu. Yeah,
crimes.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And as
War
Dave
crimes.
Chappelle
Yeah,
pointed out, I believe that Israel has been responsible for some 200 deaths of journalists over the course of the last few months.
yeah,
And
yep.
so, yeah, Chappelle was pushing back on the criticism that he had received for doing a show over in Saudi Arabia,
Right, right,
and said how because the journalist Khashoggi was killed, and he said I'm sorry, after Israel I didn't know you bitches were still counting,
right,
but
right, right, right,
and
right.
so it was a joke obviously, but
Mhm.
one that was one based in fact,
Well, he
and
made a
so
good
yeah,
I watched that special. He made a good argument. I'm not
yeah.
saying that I agree with his decision to go over there and perform for those people, but I do agree with his position that if you're going to criticize Dave Chappelle for that, then how in the heck are you not going to criticize, the people who engage with Israel and with what they've been doing? It's problematic, you know?
Yeah, it is. It is. And I'll tell you, the one of the saddest things about all of this, though, is that the FIFA World Peace Trophy, it just doesn't mean what it used to. And it really has tarnished that whole thing. Well,
Yeah, yeah.
all right, let's slide out to Alabama politics this week, brought to you by Wind Creek Entertainment.